The Shulchan Aruch says that every Jew is obligated to read the Chumash every week in order to read the weekly Parasha twice, without commentary, and once just a commentary. Meaning it's a halacha from the Shulchan Aruch that you have to do it. It's the minimum of learning Torah. Now, furthermore, Chachamim explained to us, it's impossible for you to become a Talmid Chacham or know anything of any value without learning Chumash. Further, Arav Shani, one of the Mekubalim in Eretz Yisrael, the grandson of the Ahavat Chaim, he said, when you understand the spiritual, mystical parts of the world, you know that when you learn Chumash, when you learn the weekly parasha, at the time it's supposed to be learned, it's not just for the sake of wisdom, it's not just for the sake of fulfilling the halacha, but because you're doing all of those things, you're creating certain angels that will help you that week. You're creating certain spiritual power for yourself at that time. Where if you don't do it, you're in essence missing out on a lot more than you can possibly imagine. Now, of course, a person must at some point learn other books as well, learn the Gemara and so on. But without learning the very basics and going straight to the high level, that means that you either don't have a rabbi and you've decided to become your own rabbi, or your rabbi is not really a rabbi. Because the minimum of minimum is to learn Chumash. That's how you begin. That's what you do throughout your entire life. Even the Mishnah in Avot that talks about what should be the seder of learning Torah, it starts with the Chumash before anything else. Why? Because that's the foundation of our Torah. It's the foundation of everything. Now, of course, if you learn Gemara, you will learn different parts that are from the written Torah. But you have to learn that in its time, and the Chumash in its time. Everything has its time. Everything has its time. The Gemara is considered the highest level of wisdom. But you're not going to be able to understand the highest level of wisdom without understanding the foundation of all wisdom. So, just jumping to the highest level is simply ridiculous. I mean, sometimes I hear things from new Baalei Teshuva, where they tell me, oh yeah, listen, Rabbi, I was just introduced to the Zohar. I was just introduced to the Kabbalah. So I'm going to study with my rabbi. Wait, hold on a second. Wait, you were just introduced to the Zohar? When did you do Tshuva? When did you convert? When did you even get introduced to God? What, 3, 4, 5 years ago? You're already going to the highest level? Either you're the biggest genius of the generation, or you're the biggest idiot. Most likely the latter. Most likely the latter. Why? Because even people that I know that read the entire Shas every year, entire Gemara, not Daf Yomi, the whole thing, twice, 3, 4 times a year, in 1 year. If you could finish it one time in your life, you're already a big shot. I'm talking about, I know people that finish it a few times a year. They don't read the Zohar. They don't read the Kabbalah. Why? They know it's above them. And they're not ready for it. But you haven't finished the Chumash yet with Rashi, you're going there. It's like you just got a janitor job at NASA, but you decided, you know what, let me try this, try my luck at building the rocket too. You don't know how to sweep, but you're going to build the rocket. Go ahead. I'm not going to be on that rocket though. I'm not going to be on that rocket. I don't trust you.
I try to explain that to
You cannot explain this to regular people that are doing it because their mind is so closed that unless it's coming from an authority figure that's their rabbi, they're not going to listen to anybody. They're not going to listen to anybody. Why? Because they've decided to be their rabbi. And that's why the Gemara says that someone who does not have a rabbi, God hates him. Why? Because there's an halacha. You have to have a rabbi. You have to have a rabbi that's going to remove you from the doubt. It's going to teach you certain things of what to do, what not to do, tell you when you're wrong, tell you when you're right. But if you decide to be your own rabbi, for sure you're going to make mistakes, and you're not going to be able to fix them because you don't know you're making mistakes. Because you're your own rabbi. Who's going to tell you? Yourself? So that's the problem. People that don't have a rabbi, you'll always see that it's a matter of time before they go astray really, really bad. Really, really horrible. Some people that are rabbis, that you see have changed drastically and have deteriorated dramatically with their teaching and with their understanding, and even gotten to the point of becoming heretics, you'll see what happened. It's because their rabbi either died and they didn't replace him, or they stopped listening to their rabbi and they became their own rabbi. And you see that those people became complete heretics. Horrible. It's a sad thing, but it's a reality. It happens. So one of the greatest things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me is that He gave me a rabbi that I knew on day one, he is much better than I could ever be. If I study Torah for 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000 years, I'm not going to be like Rabbi Reuven. Never. It's never going to be. Why? Because he'll study for another 1,000,000 years also. And he'll be greater than I could ever be. Now, I knew this from day one. Now, despite my huge ego that's bigger than the world, I understood next to him, I'm zero. Zero, zero, zero. And I will always be zero. Now, you guys may think I'm a big guy and great, all that stuff. But I know myself, I'm zero. Zero. Now, in comparison to Rabbi Reuven, and Rabbi Reuven says to me, he is less than zero next to Rabbi Ovadia. Less than zero. So if he is less than zero next to Rabbi Ovadia, I'm already at negative. I'm a negative. Okay? Now, Rabbi Ovadia said himself, Rabbi Ovadia says, Alvai, I will be like the Chida one day. Chida from previous generation, a few 100 years before him, 200 years before him. Alvai, I'll be like him. Meaning, Rabbi Ovadia says, I am not like Chida. Alvai, I can get to where he is. The Chida knew he's a nothing, he's a zero next to the Rambam. The Rambam was not even qualified to be the student of Rabbi Akiva, because in order to be the student of Rabbi Akiva, you had to be able to resurrect the dead. Look at someone and pretty much pick him up. That's it, he's alive. Because you pray to Hashem and that's it, alive on the spot. Alive on the spot. Anyone that was a student of Rabbi Akiva resurrects the dead. Anyone that's mentioned by name in the Gemara was able to resurrect the dead. Rambam wasn't able to resurrect the dead. Even though he did many, many miracles and different things, wasn't able to resurrect the dead at will. Not happening. He wasn't qualified. The Rambam wasn't qualified to be a Talmid of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, he was the Talmid of Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos. Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos, the Torah that he had, they said you could literally, if you took, he said himself, if you took the entire ocean, which is 72% of the globe, 72% of the globe is water, took all of that water and in essence it became ink. And then you took all the trees and turned them into pens to use that ink. And all of the land turned into paper. You wouldn't be able to write the Torah that Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos knew in his head. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos says, and all of that Torah that I know, there's not enough space in the world to fit, is not even a lick of a dog in the water of the ocean, next to my rabbis. You know, imagine a dog comes to lick the water in the ocean, to drink. Does it make an impact on the ocean? Nothing. He says, all that Torah that I know is not even that lick from that dog next to my rabbis. Who's the rabbi? Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Doesn't reach it. Nothing. Zero. And guess what? Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was not even a prophet. You go to the prophets, talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu face to face. Yechezkel, Zechariah, Ishaya. Talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu face to face. Daniel. Gemara says if the generation of Daniel, Mashiach came, it would be Daniel. David HaMelech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to him, says, David, by the way, you're the fourth of the Merkava. Everything David HaMelech says became halacha. Everything we say, not exactly halacha. And guess what? Everyone I just mentioned is a zero next to Moshe Rabbeinu. So do you understand? So when someone thinks of themselves in the right perspective, they realize how much of a zero they are. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu has psukim in the Torah where it says he was the humblest of all. So if the greatest of all, that's part of our 13 principles of faith, to remind ourselves every day that he was the greatest of all. The one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Moshe Avdi, Moshe my servant, Isha Elokim, the man of God. I spoke to Moshe face to face like a friend. If he himself thought of himself as nothing, V'anachnu ma, he said on himself, we are nothing. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm nothing. If he is nothing, you go back to what I just said, starting with me. Where am I? Where am I, Bichlal? Do you understand? So that's the thing. The more a person learns, the more he realizes how much of a nothing he is in comparison to the rabbis that came before him. If a person thinks he's a big deal, that means that he's not connected to all of those great people that I just mentioned. He's not connected at all. He's starting something new. A new religion, a new ideology. You're not connected. Why? Because all of the greatest people I've ever mentioned to you, all of them were humble. All of them thought of themselves as nothings. I'm actually really a nothing, but they actually were great something, and they thought of themselves as nothing. The more of a nothing you think of yourself, the more of a possibility that you're something. But the more of something that you think you are, for sure you're a nothing. And that's the thing. When somebody skips and just says, no, I'm not going to study Chumash. I'm not going to study that. I'm going to go straight to the source. And foolish people send me messages all the time. Yeah, God talks to me. God talks to me. Yeah, I get messages from him. I get messages from him. You know, he talks to me. You know, he tells me things. Like, go to a mental institution, please. Get yourself out of the misery. Put some drugs in your system. You know, Chabad, you're living like this, thinking God talks to you. Probably somebody talks to you, but it's definitely not God. Shedim. They like to torture people, so they make you think that you're talking to God sometimes. Why? Yeah, all the tum'ah that you created in the world, all the filth that you created in the world, you think that God's talking to you. People are ludicrous with the things that they say. You have to understand. Torah is not given to anyone just for no reason. You have to be willing to kill yourself for it. That's what Resh Lakish says at the end of Masechet Brachot. You want to inherit Torah, you have to be willing to die for it. But not die for it, no, I'm going to jump off a bridge. No. Die for it meaning your whole life. Learn, fight for it, every opportunity. Give everything for it, invest everything into it. All your time, all your money, all your heart, all your everything. Why? It is everything. But you think you can just skip everything, you're going to make a new thing? Can't help people like this. Simply cannot help people like this. Because they're so far removed from reality that it's like, what do you do with such a person? Nothing you can do with them. Only way that such a person comes back to reality is when Hashem rebukes them and they realize that they really are nothing. And that eventually happens. Hopefully it's not too late.
אני מברך את הרבנים, אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל מה שיפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו עוד לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה. איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
במיימי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית.
חזק אותו בשביל.
קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תעביר לו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
כן.